All right, so these are the detailed instructions for what you're going to do if you're writing a letter to certain characters. I have options for you that include Nwaye, Okonkwo, Obierica, or Ekwefi for characters that you might consider writing to. And then I also have options for you to consider depending on who you would like to write as. So you can see here I've got letters to Nwaye from Obierica, in which case you are Obierica talking to Nwaye. Nwaye's mother could write to Nwaye, or Ezinma might consider writing to Nwaye. All right, so these are options for you. You can mix and match however you like, but I wanted to give you some starting ideas to make this assignment as easy as possible. So, if you are going to write to Nwaye as Obierica or Nwaye's mother or Ezinma, here are some things to consider. You could ask him about his decision to join the missionaries. So, why did he do that? You could ask him what it's like living with the missionaries, right? We're probably a little curious. What's that situation like? Who else is there? What do you do every day? Um, all of those kinds of things, all the things that you would not know being removed from Nwaye at this point because he's left his family. You can tell him how things are going at home. So if you're writing as Nwaye's mother or Ezinma, you might want to include like a little story about something that happened, or, Konko's been so angry and grumpy, or just kind of a general update from your home situation because Nwaye is detached from that now. And you might want to give him advice about what to do about his family. So if you're writing as Obierica, you might give him advice in general, what to do in regards to his whole family, or how to treat this estrangement from Okonkwo. If you're writing as Nwaye's mother, you might ask him to come home. You might ask him to apologize to his father. You might ask him to ignore his father and follow his dreams. Who knows what kind of mother Nwaye's mother is? You get to decide that kind of here. And if you are writing as Ezinma, then you might give him advice as to what to do when dealing with Okonkwo specifically, because Ezinma has a good relationship with Okonkwo and a kind of a better understanding of how he works than Nwaye does. So that's one option. Another option is that you could write to Okonkwo. There's two different people I think it makes sense to write to Okonkwo as. You could write as Obierica, his best friend, who's still over in Umofia, or you could write as Nwaye, who is his son, who has now left home to join the missionaries and been kind of estranged from his father and his family. The options for what you might consider talking about in the letter from Obierica are in blue, and there are options for what you might consider writing about as Nwaye in green. Obierica might ask about his transition to exile, ask him about his plans for when he returns home, or tell him how things are going in Umofia, especially because the missionaries are there now. So give him just general updates on that situation. If you're writing as Nwaye to his father, Okonkwo, you might tell him why you joined the missionaries. Explain yourself. You might explain how his behavior impacted you in the past. So, kind of almost a letter that you don't expect to get answered, saying, listen, Dad, when you killed Akimafuna, that destroyed me. When you used to beat me and yell at me all the time, that made me feel like I wasn't worthy. So, kind of just like that dialogue that you might have with your dad, even if you're not expecting him to answer back. And then you could also ask him to accept your decision. So I hope that you can make peace with the fact that I left, or I don't care what you think about the fact that I left, or however you want to approach that when you're pretending to be Nwaye, writing to Okonkwo. A third option is that you could write to Obierica. If you're writing to Obierica who's in Umofia, you should be writing as someone who lives in Mbanta, so in the motherland. You could write as Nwaye's mother, or you could write as Okonkwo. There's a few other people you could write as well who might want to write a letter to Obierica. just run it by me maybe before you choose someone who's not on the list so I know what vein you're going down. If you're writing as Nuaye's mother, again, you see she's in blue. Here's some things she might say. She might ask how Nuaye seems, because Nuaye is in Umuofia now with the missionaries. She might ask him to tell Nuaye something, so pass this message along to Nuaye. She also might explain what happened at home when Nuaye left, because it says in the text that Obierica gets those details from her, but it doesn't say how. Maybe she wrote him a letter. If you're writing as Okonkwo to Obierica, you might tell him how exile's going. You might ask about what the missionaries in Umuofia are like and how everybody there is handling that. And you might, because you're Okonkwo, give him some advice on how he should deal with the missionaries, right? Think about how Okonkwo would approach that and what he would tell his friend he should do. Lastly, you might choose to write a letter to Akwefi. Akwefi is with Okonkwo in the motherland, so she is also exiled. She is away from Umuofia, and because of that, she's away from her best friend, the priestess, the oracle, Chielo. All right, so if Chielo were to write a letter to Akwefi, she might ask how exile is going. Ask how Azimma is doing. How is she doing in exile? Because Chielo really likes Azimma, remember? She might tell Akwefi about the missionaries in Umuofia. We hear in the text that Chielo really hates the missionaries. She thinks they're like mad dogs that are going to destroy the village. She might tell Akwefi her opinion on Okonkwo appearing with the missionaries. Sorry, this should say Nuaye appearing with the missionaries. And she might ask how Nuaye's mother is doing. So this should be Nuaye appears in Umuofia with the missionaries. She could discuss that. So those are your options, right? Akwefi from Chielo. You would be writing the letter as Chielo. You could write to Obierica and pretend that you are Nuaye's mother or Okonkwo. You could write to Okonkwo as Obierica or Nuaye. Or you could write to Nuaye. And you could write to Nuaye as Obierica, his own mother, right? Nuaye's mother is Nuaye's mother, if that's confusing to anyone. Or you could write as Azimma, who is his sister, his half-sister. And that is the assignment for the next couple days. I hope that's clear. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment in our Google Classroom stream or send me an email, and I will get back to you just as quick as I can. I am in school, just preparing the classroom for those of you who are returning to do hybrid with me next week. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you super soon.